There have been reports that DNA samples were allegedly taken from Hong Kong protesters who were recently arrested under the new national security law. Renowned Hong Kong businessman Elmer Yuen acknowledged these reports and said that the DNA sampling reminded him of the Chinese regime's forced organ harvesting among prisoners of conscience, including adherents of the spiritual practice Falun Gong. After Beijing's national security law came into effect in Hong Kong on July 1st, 10 protesters ages 15 to 67 were arrested and taken into custody. A lawyer for several of the protesters claimed that DNA samples were collected, the Japan Times reported on July 7th. In an interview with the Epoch Times on July 6, Elmer Yuen pointed out that the move was not only intended to intimidate Hong Kong people, but was also related to the Chinese Communist Party's involvement in the crime of forced organ harvesting among dissidents and prisoners of conscience.
Those who had their saliva samples taken took down the badge numbers of the police officers who took their saliva, because those matters will be held accountable in the future. Taking saliva is not a trivial matter. First of all, they have no right to take saliva. And as far as I know, the police, took saliva samples for DNA tests so that they could take other actions in the future. The police, is now treating those protesters who were arrested under the national security law the same way as Falun Gong practitioners, which is a very serious matter.
An independent panel known as the China Tribunal released a report on March 1st, which showed evidence that China's transplant market is mainly sourced from the organs of imprisoned Falun Gong practitioners. Adherents of the spiritual practice Falun Gong have been subject to intense persecution by the Chinese regime since 1999, a campaign involving arbitrary detention, forced labor, brainwashing, torture, and even death. The Chinese regime's effort to build up a DNA database of its citizens have raised concerns about civil and human rights violations. China's DNA collection program began in 2003 and was limited to certain parts of the country, including Tibet and Xinjiang. But beginning in 2017, collections for the DNA database were expanded across the country. Earlier this week, Yuen attended a U.S. House of Representatives hearing on the Hong Kong national security law. He said that the U.S. government is highly concerned about the CCP's encroachment on Hong Kong's autonomy and that it is constantly monitoring the situation.